creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Looked like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the shadows.
In southeastern Massachusetts, there's a stretch of land that's earned a reputation unlike any other. 200 square miles of dense forest, dark swamps, and winding back roads. On paper, it's a quiet part of New England. Small towns, cranberry bogs, and fishing spots. But locals know better. They call it the Bridgewater Triangle. It's where glowing lights hover above trees with no sound, where giant birds, too large to be real, have been seen circling the horizon, where phantom fires burn in the woods and disappear without a trace. Police have chased creatures they couldn't explain. Archaeologists have uncovered burial grounds, mysterious rock carvings that shouldn't be there. Hikers vanish. Sometimes they're found miles away with no memory of how they got there. The center of it all is a place called Hockomock Swamp, a place that translates roughly to the place where spirits dwell. For centuries, people have said that something ancient lingers there, something that watches, and tonight we're heading straight into that darkness. From colonial legends to modern-day UFO reports, this region has become a catalog of unexplained, and the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. I am Victus, and tonight we are covering the Bridgewater Triangle. That's right, folks. Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome to another lovely Sunday evening in real time at the time of this recording. Welcome to a wonderful, wonderful evening. Just welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here. This is season 2, episode 40. 40. We've got 12 episodes left for the end of the year. Beyond the Shadows podcast. Tonight we're discussing the Bridgewater Triangle. We talked about it last week, just a tiny, tiny bit. But tonight we're going to go through and do a super deep dive. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. But we do have some small announcements to make. Very small announcements. Nothing crazy. First and foremost, we got a listener email. Yeah, like a first listener email. We've got a first listener email this week. So James, if you're watching, listening, thank you for your email. I'm not going to read this whole thing out, but yeah, I've read your email. I'll take your feedback. That's all I needed. Someone to say, hey, what we're doing is good. James suggests we keep the what shirt are you wearing today, and we keep the news segments. And since nobody else has said otherwise, we're going to keep doing it. And before we go too far, I do want to run on a small tangent. Thank you, James, for your email. I did read it. Thank you so much. I do want to take a minute to say I've spent the week reading and watching videos about like inspiration and growth and content creation. And I've decided that I'm just going to continue to do what I like to do that makes me happy. Because at the end of the day, this podcast is here simply because I want to share with the world what makes me happy. And I'm not saying this against Jim. No, nothing to do with James. Excuse me. Not Jim, James. James, thank you for your email. But I've changed so many things about myself and the way that I talk in the podcast and content that we cover in the podcast because I was afraid of what people would think about it. And, you know, now that I've gotten one email, just one email did this for me. I got one email that shows me that people are listening. People are enjoying what I do here, and it means so much to me on a level that no one other than myself could understand. Been doing this podcast for almost 2 years, and starting to see that, people come around because I create something that I love, then those are the type of people that I like to have. And I don't think I'm going to change anything about my content creation process. I think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I hate to use the word sell out, but I'm not going to sell out. I'm not going to do this other stuff. I don't care if we get, I'm not hunting for sponsors. This setup is perfectly fine. We're doing really good with what we got. But yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you for all of you that actually listened and watched. And thank you, James, for your email. I just, getting that one email meant so much to me that it's given me the drive to want to continue doing what I do. And thank you, James. And thank you, everybody else out there that's watched consistently. There's a few of us, or a few of y'all out there, Blip, he was here a lot, but he hasn't been around a little bit, I'm sure. He's an adult. He's probably got stuff going on. No big deal. Shark's around all the time. Hef is here all the time. And I can't thank every one of you enough to continue to make one of my dreams a reality. Just doing a podcast talking about something that I love. And I'm hoping that y'all get the same joy and enjoyment out of this as I do. But thank you, every single one of you that listen and pay attention. And I'm glad every single one of you are here. Thank you so much. So that being said, I noticed my camera's crooked. I can't fix it. It won't stop leaning that direction because I can't afford a good stupid camera mount. It's like a $4 boom arm, whatever. It's the same thing as this right here. It's just that one is a little more wore out. I take it back. This one's actually really wore out. That's why it never moves. One day we'll upgrade. One day. Anywho, welcome in, everybody. Season 2, episode 40 of Beyond the Shadows podcast. My name is Victus, and tonight we're covering the Bridgewater Triangle. But before we go any further, we do have our paranormal news. This week in paranormal news. So let's dive into that. So as of October 19, 2025, here are your recent headlines and sightings in paranormal news. Haunted Maryland home. Business Insider features Maryland's mid-1700s Hager House. It's considered the most haunted building in every year, one of its most haunted buildings in the state of Maryland, and it is made the most haunted building in every U.S. state list. It is reportedly haunted by up to 13 ghosts, former residents, with visitors citing disembodied voices, moving objects, and footsteps. Moving now to the spooky South, ghost tours led by paranormal experts are announced for a historic site in Jackson, Mississippi. Another article covered haunted Linden Hill in Holly Springs, Mississippi. How do they get library? Which is offering more tours this October. Moving up north again for the Amityville entity, a photo allegedly captured the Amityville horror house was shared on Facebook. The image, captured by investigator Gene Campbell, purportedly shows a ghost of a boy believed to have died there. And moving out here to the woods now, we got Cabin Terror. On a recent YouTube video, group recounted a terrifying experience at a hunting cabin. They reported a violent shaking doorknob, moving furniture, and telephone that repeatedly rang despite being unplugged. And according to Today.com, a ghost nanny story, a ghost about a phantom nanny was shared on Today.com. The tale involves a couple who moved into a home where the previous owner had died in a fire and later experienced unusual phenomena involving their baby. In some light media and entertainment news, True Hauntings on Netflix, a new docuseries exploring real-life hauntings in Victorian home in Salt Lake City, premiered on Netflix October 10. New ghost stories from the Water's Edge Church. Several YouTube videos featuring new ghost stories were posted at the Water's Edge Church in Nebraska this week. Various books and movies featuring supernatural themes are set for release in October, just in time for Halloween. These include the film Good Boy, told from a dog's point of view, and a new release by authors like Joe Hill and Kelly Armstrong. Final Destination Bloodlines 2025 update. A Facebook post confirmed that the latest Final Destination movie, which continues the horror franchise, was released in May of 26, will be the final movie in the Final Destination series. Ongoing paranormal drama, a timeline of news related and the infamous Annabelle doll was compiled. The summary includes the mysterious deaths and disappearances of paranormal investigators involved with it over the summer of 2025. And remembering Joe Nickel, the New York Times published an article in memoriam of Joe Nickel, a prominent paranormal investigator and professional skeptic who passed away earlier this year. He was known for offering rational explanations for many mysteries, including the Loch Ness Monster and the Shroud of Turin. And that concludes this week's News in Paranormal. Fantastic. Glad you're all here. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, if you want to catch us live, we are live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/beyondshadowspodcast. Beyond the Shadows Podcast, excuse me. You can find those links everywhere in the description of these episodes. No matter where you're watching or listening, it's always there. Any hoots and hollers? Other than our email from James this week, we don't have any new content to bring you concerning listeners. So, we're going to move forward. But I'm not going to forget about you, James. I think we might start calling this the James segment. But a question that's often brought up in podcasting and in the paranormal worlds. It's a question I think anybody that does any type of paranormal podcasting has heard this at least once. At least once. And that is, what shirt are you wearing today? I can't dance. All right. So, like I said, the shirt pile is flipped over. We've hit almost a full year's worth of t-shirts now, and I don't imagine I'll be buying any more. But today, we are wearing my Studio Ghibli Bob's Burgers crossover shirt. Check this out. Check this out. This way. Yeah, here we go. Studio Ghibli Bob's Burger. If you know what that is, cool. We can be friends. And it is one of my very favorite shirts. Yes, thank you. They're all one of my very favorite shirts. Moving forward, we're going to dive off into this. We've got a crazy, crazy story tonight. I'm not sure how versed many of you listeners are in the Bridgewater Triangle. We talked a little bit about it last week. This week, wanted to do the full deep dive. We wanted to make sure that we're checking all the boxes, crossing the T's and gouging the I's here. First time I heard about the Bridgewater Triangle was a podcast. Let me shout out this podcast before we go any further, because it is excellent. It is a production. So the podcast is by Grim and Mild, which is the company that also does the podcast Lore. And if you don't know what either one of those are, Lore or Bridgewater, I recommend going straight to your streaming device, whatever you're using, your phone, your laptop, your car, what have you. And if you like podcasts and you like spooky stuff, go and check out this podcast. I say it's a podcast. It's more like a dramatization of a story. Okay, so I started listening to it thinking it was a real story. Unfortunately, it is fictitious, but It covers all the bases of what really happens in the Bridgewater Triangle. And I'm a huge fan of Grim and Mild. I listen to all of their stuff every single week. And it just told a really good story. The production is excellent. I'm gonna have to tag this show in the notes. But the show is called Bridgewater. It's a podcast by iHeart Podcast and Grim and Mild. Grim and Mild is excellent. Go check out Grim and Mild. I think grimandmild.com. I need to tag them. Phenomenal. Great little company. This guy used to be a college professor, and part of his way of engaging his students was he would give snips of like deep dive folklore in with his assignments. And somebody told him one day, this would make a good podcast. And so he did. And the Lore podcast is world renowned at this point. It's been translated to different languages. There's books. There's an Amazon TV series. There's so much going on with this podcast. And Lore got me into Grim and Mild. Grim and Mild got me into Bridgewater. And Bridgewater is the production by Grim and Mild, which in the end is produced by the same people that do Lore. I recommend it. I'm going to try my best to remember to tag that and then show notes. Great story. Great story. And this was the first time I heard about the Bridgewater Triangle. So logically, when I heard about the Bridgewater Triangle on a podcast, even if it was, once I found out it was like a dramatic retelling, I was like, well, I wonder if this place is real. And you know what? It is. This place is real. Whoever wrote the story for the show Bridgewater actually used foundations of folklore and stuff from the actual area that this Bridgewater Triangle is in. Had no clue. I'd never heard of it. I've heard of the Bermuda Triangle, and I feel like in passing somewhere I heard the name Bridgewater Triangle. I just couldn't put my finger on where I'd seen it before, right? So I think it is the proper thing to do here is to go through and really do this deep dive today. I think it's important. I really think it's important. So we're going to go ahead and tie off into this. And if this is your first time hearing about the Bridgewater Triangle, awesome. I'm glad I'm the one that can tell you about it. If this is not your first time hearing about it, sit tight and get ready, because I've got details that even I didn't know about after deep diving it several times. So we're going to get into it. I hope y'all are ready, because this is season 2, episode 40 of Beyond the Shadows podcast. And tonight we are covering the Bridgewater Triangle. If you pull up a map of southeastern Massachusetts and trace a line from Abington in the north down to Freetown in the southwest, across to Rehoboth in the southeast, you'll outline a triangle, roughly 200 square miles of woods, rivers, and old colonial towns. That triangle has been the center of the strangest reports in New England history, in lights in the sky, phantom animals, ancient stones carved with unknown symbols, and dozens of alleged hauntings. The man who gave it that name was Loren Coleman, a cryptozoologist and researcher of unexplained phenomena. In the late 1970s, Coleman began compiling reports from the area, stories that stretched from police files to personal encounters. In his 1983 book, Mysterious America, he officially coined the term the Bridgewater Triangle. Long before Massachusetts became a state, this land belonged to the Wampanoag people, a confederation of tribes whose territory stretched from one of the bays across Cape Cod. Their oral history described certain areas as sacred and dangerous, places where the boundary between the physical world and the spirit world blurred. At the center of that belief was Hockomock Swamp, a vast boggy expanse of nearly 17,000 acres. The Wampanoag called it Hockomock, meaning the place where spirits dwell. To them, it was not evil, but powerful. It was a place to be respected, avoided, and entered only for spiritual rituals. Archaeologists have since uncovered stone cairns, arrowheads, and ceremonial sites deep within the swamp. Evidence of that area held significance for long before European contact. When English settlers arrived in the 1600s, they viewed Hockomock as something else entirely. Colonial journalists described it as a, quote, godless and haunted wilderness, where livestock went missing and strange lights flickered above the bog. One early entry from 1670 attributed to a settler named John Winthrop the Younger mentioned, quote, fires in the night skies above ye marshland, and, quote, unsettling cries in the distance as though men were being drowned where none were, end quote. Even if that's folklore, it paints a picture of early fear, of a land that refused to be tamed. And by 1675, the area around Bridgewater became one of the bloodiest regions in King Philip's War, a brutal conflict between English colonists and Wampanoag, under their leader, Metacom, known to settlers as King Philip. The swamp served as the defensive stronghold for the Wampanoag. Colonial records mentioned repeated raids into the Hockomock where soldiers claimed to have seen smoke and heard voices long after the fighting ended. Modern historians and paranormal researchers often point to this as the root of the area's haunting, the belief that the violence and bloodshed of that war left an imprint on the land itself. Coleman once noted that tragedy stains geography the way ink bleeds through paper. What happened at Hockomock may have soaked into the ground. And I totally forgot, we gotta do Act 1. This is Act 1, everybody. So by the late 19th century, Bridgewater and its surrounding towns, Easton, Raymond, Taunton, and Freetown, had settled into New England communities. Yet the stories never stopped. Farmers reported phantom fires glowing in the swamp at night. Hunters described gigantic birds with wingspans over 10 feet, soaring silently over the trees, and fishermen told of lights beneath the water that rose and vanished without a sound. In 1908, the Taunton Gazette printed a short article about a, quote, large bird or flying man seen near the swamp, describing it as an ominous shape with wings like a bat. That same year, a Bridgewater resident, Thomas Smith, told local police that he had seen, quote, something like a winged creature perched on a barn roof before it launched into the night. These reports might have faded into folklore if not for how often they had been repeated, decade after decade in different forms but in the same region. In the 1970s, Coleman, then a young researcher with background in sociology and folklore, noticed that Bridgewater, Rehoboth, and Freetown had overlapping patterns of strange reports spanning centuries. He began plotting them on a map: UFO sightings, creature encounters, mysterious deaths, and occult activity. When the points connected, they formed a rough triangle. That visualization became the cornerstone of his theory that certain regions could act as window areas, zones of concentrated high strangeness where paranormal, cryptid, and UFO phenomena intersect. Coleman drew inspiration from the Bermuda Triangle, but his focus was landlocked, local, and documentable. He told the Boston Globe in 1984, quote,
"This isn't about a single ghost story or UFO report. It's about a pattern that exists across time, centuries of experiences layered over the same ground."
Since then, Dozens of researchers, journalists, and paranormal investigators have expanded on his work, exploring whether the pattern is coincidence or something deeper. The landscape itself plays a role in the legend. The Bridgewater Triangle isn't made up of towns that look or feel the same. Abington is suburban quiet. Neighborhoods, small businesses, old mills. Freetown has deep forests, abandoned quarries, and the sprawling Freetown Fall River State Forest, a hotspot for disappearances and ritualistic activity. Rehoboth is older still, home to the Anawan Rock, where native resistance fighters were captured at the end of King Philip's War. Between them runs a mix of isolation and historical trauma. Locals talk about forests like they're alive, with some paths that never seem to lead where they should. In an interview in 1991, a lifelong resident, Helen Medeiros, told the Enterprise newspaper, quote, "We used to go walking in the woods behind our house near the swamp. You take a turn and then suddenly you're somewhere else. My father said the woods were playing tricks on us." End quote. That feeling of being watched, of time or space behaving differently, comes up again and again in local accounts. Some dismiss it as disorientation in the fog, but others believe it's part of what defines the triangle. So by the mid-20th century, the area had become a quiet magnet for investigators. Joseph DeAndre, a lifelong Bridgewater resident and early Bigfoot researcher, claimed to have seen a tall, hairy creature near the swamp in 1978. He later founded the Bridgewater Triangle Expedition Group, which collects reports of creatures, UFOs, and poltergeist activity in the area. DeAndre told the Brocken Enterprise in 1981, "People don't realize how much happens out here." It was you? The tall, hairy creature? We've got it. We know who the Bridgewater Bigfoot is now. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. My podcasting voice is on point tonight. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I get on here and I feel like I've got a really high voice. Like I hate the sound of my voice, ironically, right? For a podcaster. But like sometimes I hear myself extraordinarily well. Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready because I know what's in this triangle. I know it's in here. But tonight my voice is, I don't know. My voice just has a timbre that I'm finding enjoyable and agreeable. So I feel like usually my high-pitched voice isn't here today. I hate my voice. I really do. I should just podcast with this on all the time, so no one can hear my stupid squeaky voice. 40 years old and I still got a squeaky voice. Jeez. Welcome in, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Just gonna crack another beer. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yumsies. Gets rid of my people nervous. I get really nervous when people are in chat. I really do. But I'm glad. It's funny because I want people in chat. I really do. But I don't. I do, but I don't. I don't know. I like having people in chat, but it makes me nervous. Like my back is sweating already.
It would sound faster to you in your head as it has your jawbone help carry the vibrations.
Yeah. That's why, like, I think... Wow, my mic is a little hot. I'm leaning in. I think my voice sounds great until I hear... because I got to go back and, edit the podcast later. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And, I feel sorry for folks, because I used to be a singer of a band, and I'm like, why did people think I sounded good singing? It's just, yeah, I don't know. But thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's, where do we leave off at? Oh, yeah. DeAndre's quote. So DeAndre told the Brockton Enterprise in 1981, quote, "People don't realize how much happens out here. It's not just stories. It's police reports. It's footprints. It's something physical."
It's like you people see isn't the you see in a mirror.
Right. Precisely. Because I don't think I'm a handsome individual, but for some reason my wife sees it. I really don't. Every time I see myself in the mirror, I'm like, why did she marry me? I am not handsome, but it does it for her, I guess. You know what I mean? It's weird. The self-image. What's that dysmorphia thing? Is that what it's called? Dysmorphia? No, I think dysmorphia is a little more serious. That's right. Excuse me.
You look like a human.
Oh, geez, good. It's good to know the mask still fits good. Because I've been wearing this for like 40 years now, and
Your brain is the best bit.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, my brain is my favorite part of my body because it is sharp as a tack. Sharp as a tack. I do shit that people my age don't even think about. Also dumb shit. Back sweat. Jesus. Thermostat doesn't want to do anything because it's, I know, cold outside. Alright, so others reported including glowing orbs. Other reports included glowing orbs seen near...
Your brain is you. Your body is just a meat machine you're piloting.
Yes, well, I'm actually from another planet, so this is literally a meat machine. And here in about 20 or 30 years, my little alien self pops out of my head, and I jump back in my UFO and I fly away. I've been telling people for years, but nobody believes me. Yeah. I'm just an alien. I'm an alien. I'm not from here.
I believe you.
Thank you. I'm about to sneeze. Ooh, sneezing season is upon us. I've been going all day. I'm so grateful for that mute button. When I sneeze, it's like 5-6 sneezes in a row. Sometimes more. Today I sneezed. I had like 12 sneezes in a row. And it stopped me dead in my tracks, and I had to lean on the table in the kitchen to keep from falling over.
It's like you could buy in a Seats catalogue. Sears.
Oh, Seats cat. I'll take that as a compliment. Sears has been around for a long time. Yeah, I originally bought this biomechanical suit from Sears, but the interstellar version that caters to extraterrestrials. Back in the day when the Sears catalog was worth looking at. Alright, we're talking about Profile Rock, a granite formation once revered by the Wampanoag. The rock's outline was said to resemble a profile of Chief Massasoit, who had made peace with the Pilgrims in the 1600s. Visitors often describe strange sensations near the rock, hearing whispers, feeling watched, or seeing mist form around it without cause. In 1983, Massachusetts State Police investigated a report of mutilated animals in the Freetown Forest. This case led to allegations of the satanic cult activity, an element that would dominate later Bridgewater Triangle lore. At the time, the area's reputation began shifting from a quiet oddity to a recognized hotspot of paranormal. TV documentaries, podcasts, like this one, and investigative books would eventually follow, each adding another layer to the mythos. Skeptics argue that the reputation is the result of selective storytelling. That once the term caught on, unrelated local legends were folded into it. Statistically, they point out rural areas everywhere produce higher rates of UFO sightings, cryptid reports, and folklore because of low population density and shared cultural myths. But even skeptics agree that the Bridgewater Triangle stands out for one reason: the variety of its phenomena. Unlike other paranormal hotspots that center around one theme, a ghost, a UFO, a single legend, the Triangle combines them all. Psychologist Dr. Robert Bartholomew, who studied mass delusion and cultural folklore, once wrote, quote, "What we see in the Bridgewater Triangle is not a single belief system, but a convergence, an ecosystem of the unexplained that feeds on itself." End quote. So by the 2000s, the Triangle had evolved from a regional curiosity into a recognized piece of American paranormal geography. It's been featured in television documentaries like America's Bermuda Triangle, Discovery Channel 2005, The Bridgewater Triangle 2013, and which compiled decades of witness interviews and police reports. In that documentary, Loren Coleman reflected on his early research. Quote, "I didn't invent the Triangle. The people of southeastern Massachusetts did. I just drew the borders around what was already there." End quote. Every story about the Bridgewater Triangle begins with the same landscape: the fog rising off the swamp, the dirt roads that seem to dead end in the trees, the silence that hangs over it all. But behind every ghost story and UFO report is a deeper question. Why here? Why do so many strange events gather in one region across generations? Is it geology, magnetic anomalies, pockets of swamp gas, the psychological effect of isolation? Or is it something older, a residual energy born of conflict, death, and sacred ground? Whatever the answer is, the Bridgewater Triangle refuses to be forgotten. And we'll see, the deeper investigators go into the forest and history, the more the lines blur between folklore, crime, and something that doesn't fit in either category. That's right. So I want to take a second. I want to pull up some pictures. Let's see the actual, I doubt we're gonna find Google Maps image. Let's check this out. So here we go. We're in Massachusetts here. Providence, Pawtucket. Okay, so these are names we're used to hearing. That's Providence, Rhode Island. So the center of it is Taunton. So yeah, let's pull up Google Maps. I'm just gonna see if I can find it. I thought we were here somewhere. Oh, I was close. I was close. Okay, so here's Bridgewater. So the triangle is here, here to here. It seems very nondescript. I don't know why this area. you would think if anything had like the deeper folklore, like area around Providence would be a little more spooky, but you know, looking at this whole area, lots and lots of forest. The greenest forest, of course. Rehoboth State Forest. Here we go. I was hoping we'd see something kind of spooky, like a snail. I mean, about what you'd expect from a state park, you know what I mean? Yeah, nothing really like stands out. Usually when we when we get into stuff like this, I like to look on Google Maps and see if there's anything. Oh, okay, here's the Hockomock Swamp. What? What is this? Oh. Okay. Oh yeah, that place just looks spooky. I'd hate to be out there at night. Ooh, the fog. Jeez, they weren't playing. Yeah, that place is just spookerific. Oh, turkeys, okay. Oh, well that's delightful. What are we looking at here? What is this? Interesting. The first photo uploaded on the tag Hockomock Swamp was October of 2024. What are we looking at here? What is this? Anything? What the hell? It's a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little weird. I mean, an absolutely delightful area. Like, wilderness abound. This feels like the most raw it can be in the United States. Like, this is what the country looked like before we moved here. Oh, absolutely wonderful. I was hoping somebody would have posted something spooky like that animal fur. Yeah, it's okay. So what I'm getting at is I like to look on Google Maps because when we're trying to decide whether or not an area is truly paranormal or not, we'll type in the area, what have you, put its name into Google Maps, and we'll usually get something like over near Roswell. They have the Ale Inn. It's a restaurant that is UFO themed, alien themed. Somebody's cashing in off of that. So the first rule, and if you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that we like to ask the first rule, or the first question we like to ask, excuse me, not a rule, question. Who's making money off of this? So who's making money off the Bridgewater Triangle? Judging by Google Maps, nobody. You know, we've got some podcasters that have written some stuff, some YouTubers. But I just haven't seen, you know, much of anything else. Oh my goodness. What is this? Oh, that's nothing spooky. But yeah, we can look here and we see that nobody's really making money off of it. Like, we don't see like a Bridgewater Triangle museum or a Bridgewater Triangle coffee shop, what have you. We don't see any of that. So I think it's safe to say, you know, podcasters aside, what have you, I don't see anybody really making money. There is one thing I wanted to look up. So we talked about it up there at the beginning, or here in the middle of Act 1. Profile rock at Granite Formation, once revered by the Wampanoag. The rock outline was said to resemble the profile of Chief Massasoit, who had made peace with the Pilgrims in 1600. So let's find that. Come on, where's Profile Rock? Stop showing us your RC cars. Let's see the rock. Show me the rock, damn it. Wow, this guy's really excited about his cars. Where's the rock? I want to see the rock that looks like dude's face. Oh, that's cool. About time we get somebody out here with some awesomeness in their photography. Oh, was that the rock? Is that it? There it is. Profile rock. Okay, I see it. I see the face. You know, that's really good. Yeah, so that's the same rock. It's just got the shadow. It's got the shadow. Cool. So it's an actual place. It's a rock, and it looks like a dude's face. Didn't expect that. I really didn't. Awesome. Cool. We're losing people, but that's fine. We're going to move on forward, folks. So now you've heard the foundation of what the Bridgewater Triangle is. We're going to tie off into Act 2. And in Act 2, we're going to talk about some of the things that have been reported in the Bridgewater Triangle. All right? We're moving on to Act 2, everybody. Act 2. If you spend enough time talking to people who live around the edges of the Hockomock Swamp, a pattern starts to form. The stories change in detail. Some say it was massive, others say it ran on two legs. But they all agree on one thing. There's something in those woods that shouldn't be there. The earliest modern reports of a large hairy creature in the swamp date back to the early 1970s, around the same time that Bigfoot sightings were spreading across the Pacific Northwest. But this wasn't Washington or Oregon. This was Massachusetts, far from the wilderness most people associate with the giant apes. In the 1970s, several reports reached the local newspapers. The Enterprise out of Brockton carried a small story titled Giant Creature Seen Roaming Swamp, and it described multiple witnesses who reported a, quote, large upright figure covered in hair crossing a dirt road near the town of West Bridgewater. One eyewitness, a teenager named John Baker, told police that the creature had glowing eyes and such a terrible stench, like rotting vegetation. A follow-up article in the Taunton Daily Gazette in the next week quoted another man who claimed to have seen the same thing. He said, quote, "It was huge. I thought it was a bear until it started running on two legs." Police searched the area and found large footprints in the mud, roughly 18 inches long. They photographed and cast them, but no definitive evidence was confirmed. Joseph DeAndre, who later became a central figure in the Bridgewater cryptid research, claimed to have seen the creature himself in 1978 while jogging near a pond on the outskirts of the swamp. In his own words,
I saw a man, but not a man. It was covered in dark brown hair from head to toe. It moved fast, silent, before disappearing into the trees.
DeAndre's sighting was included in the Lauren Coleman's later research and became one of the cornerstone cases of the Bridgewater Triangle's reputation as a cryptid hotspot. But what makes the Hockomock creature different from typical Bigfoot stories is the environment. This isn't dense mountain forest, it's a swamp. Mud, reeds, shallow water. The reports often describe the creature as wet or slick, its fur matted, and the smell is almost unbearable. Locals started calling it the swamp ape, or simply the Hockomock monsters. So it's interesting. We actually covered in season 1 the skunk ape, which is another Bigfoot-like cryptid, but down in Florida. And we actually watched a video of what was supposedly the skunk ape crossing swampland, and it moved far too quickly on mushy swamp like ground to be a human. All right, you should go back. I do believe jeez, I just
Hello.
I'm gonna moo. Welcome in. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. We just touched on the Bridgewater Bigfoot. I was trying to remember what episode or what season it was that we talked about the swamp ape, or the skunk ape in the swamps down in southern Florida, because we do see a parallel here. Because they said the one thing that makes the Bridgewater Bigfoot so unique is because it's living in a swamp area. However, the skunk ape also lives in a swamp area, so not super unique, but we'd like to see parallels between one case and the other to show that there's not, I don't know, would we talk about things that have been seen in other areas? It kind of lends to the authenticity of it. I feel like if we only saw one Bigfoot-like creature running through a swamp, we would probably write it off, but now we have evidence of two. So, Anywho's. Welcome, Monty. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the follow. I saw that you followed me in all my Instagrams and stuff. Thank you so much. I hope you get, you followed me on my personal stuff. I hope you like weird abstract photography. Yeah, I've, in another life I was a photographer, and I have a massive collection of cameras. The last count was like 230 cameras. The oldest one is from 1918, and the newest one is from 2026. Very old cameras, very new cameras. I love cameras. I collect them, all ages, all sizes, all styles. When it comes to cameras, it's like booty. I don't discriminate. They're all great. But anywho, it's, yeah, I'm in the middle of a project. So since you like photography, I will tell you I'm in the middle of a project that I have a bunch of old cameras from like the 60s and 70s that I really like the way the image comes across through those cameras. I have a couple old digital cameras. I'm going to tear them down and see if I can't find a way to put like a digitizer from a digital camera in one of my older cameras, so I can use them like a digital camera, but it's through the old camera. You see what I'm saying? It's a project. It will probably take me a year or two to figure it out, but I'll get it. I will get it. Oh, yes.
I get it.
Since we're talking about it, I'm going to show you what my favorite camera is. You know what?
Yes.
I'll show you a picture of it, but then I'll grab it when I go downstairs to use the bathroom. I love this camera so much. I do. This is my camera reception, yeah. So this is the Argus Super 75. I love this camera. This camera was issued to standard infantry during World War II, and when I found my Super 75, it was rusted shut, and when I finally got it open, it had an original roll of film in it from the 1940s. So I sealed it, sent it off to a company, and they developed the images, and they said, well, there was only 2 or 3 on there, but they were from World War II. It was from somebody that was active military, and they took some battlefield shots. They just sent me the email. I looked at them. I was like, hey, that's really cool. And that was about it. They sent me a free roll of film for it. But no, it's a really great camera. When I use the bathroom, I'll grab it. I would love to show it off. I love showing off this camera. It is one of my favorites. It is my favorite. But I'm glad somebody around here appreciates photography like I do. I have cameras everywhere.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. I really am. Any hoots and hollers. Tonight we're discussing the Bridgewater Triangle. I don't know if you've heard of that one or not. Some people have, some people haven't. We've only just scratched the surface of the first spooky thing that came up, and that is the Bridgewater Bigfoot. So there's a Bigfoot. Awesome. It's up here in Massachusetts in the United States. I'll show you a picture where it's at. I do not mind going back and showing people things. So this is our Bridgewater Triangle. This is in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. This is very near Providence, very near where the foundation of the United States came from. The original colony, the 1600s, is very nearby, 50 miles as the crow flies. But there's lots and lots reported in this area. And
How come shit happens in a triangle shape?
right, we did talk about this.
Like the New Day.
Right. Well, what he was seeing, so the original investigator back in the 1970s took all of these stories and all of these police reports and literally just plotted them on a map, right? And it just happened to be in between 3 major towns. I mean, honestly, like, you could make a triangle out of anything. Like, I could pull up my town and be like the Triangle of Dollar General. And we would have a conspiracy theory out of the gate. I mean, like, take Washington, D.C., for instance. You could pull pentagrams out of their street layout all over the place. I do not jest. Washington, D.C. is like crazy. Yeah, check this out. Like, you can do this anywhere. But Washington, D.C. is like, the whole town was built and laid out by the Masons. So you get these crazy, intersections. So look, here's the White House. Boom. Like, the point of the White House is the point of the pentagram here. So 1. Oh, wait. Yeah. You see what I'm seeing, right? White House. Roundabout. Corner. Roundabout. You plot that. Boom, 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 boom. We got a pentagram, and the tip of the pentagram points at the White House. It's wild. Like, I don't know why they would want a pentagram there, but yeah, it's weird. Anywhoots. But no, I think it's more like a concentration. So he said that once that he plotted everything from the police reports and first-hand accounts on a map, it made a loose triangle shape, and that's what he plotted on the map. And he just picked the parameters that were... He said he didn't coin the term Bridgewater Triangle, he just marked its boundaries. That's all he did. Alright, so we're going to get down to the official involvement from the 1970s, where the police are getting involved in some of the cryptids being seen around the Bridgewater Triangle. So police didn't treat the reports as folklore, and in 1970, the Bridgewater Police Department responded to multiple calls of residents claiming a, quote, giant bear was in their yards. Officers armed with rifles searched the area but found nothing, and according to a 1970 report archived at the Bridgewater Historical Society, one officer wrote, quote, tracks were seen but lost in the underbrush. No known animal matches the description provided by witnesses. That same summer, local radio stations ran short updates about a, quote, mysterious creature sighted near the swamp. Interest was high enough that a few amateur hunters organized nighttime patrols. One of them later told the Brockton Enterprise it wasn't a prank. Whatever was out there was big enough to shake the brush when it moved. We love shaking bushes around here. Yep, that was a joke. So by 1978, DeAndre and a small group of friends began what they called the Bridgewater Expedition, conducting overnight vigils in the swamp with cameras and tape recorders. They never captured photographic proof, but they did record howls and knocking sounds that they said resembled those reported in other Bigfoot hotspots. Coleman later analyzed those accounts and noted that they were clustered around the same 3-mile region near the northern border of the Hockomock Swamp. The swamp's terrain made any serious investigation nearly impossible. Waist-deep water, thick vegetation, and quicksand-like mud discouraged even experienced hikers. And to this day, most sightings happen near roads or edges of the swamp, places where civilization meets the wilderness. Which brings us up to our next cryptid of the Bridgewater Triangle. And that is the Thunderbird. Great timing. Excellent timing. Excellent timing. I commend you. Kudos on the timing. Not Shrek, but the Thunderbird. This is a rarely heard of cryptid when it comes to any type of cryptid investigations. We don't necessarily hear about the Thunderbird too much today. 150, 200 years ago, it was heard about a lot. As reports of the swamp creature were fading after phenomena took its place, or another phenomena took its place.
Transformer.
He did it again. Good job. Right on the money. Thunderbird sightings, not Transformers. In 1978, 2 police officers from the town of Norton, Sergeant Thomas Downey and Officer Charles Willis, reported seeing a, quote, massive bird or flying creature near the Bird Hill in Easton. around 2 a.m., and Downey told the Enterprise, quote, it stood about 6 feet tall, had a wingspan wider than my cruiser, and looked prehistoric. Both men were respected officers, and the reports made national news. The Brockton Enterprise headline read, Police spot giant bird, not a hoax. And over the following weeks, it could have been, I guess it could have been an emu, but their wingspan wouldn't have been wider than a car, right? There is, so let's see if we can find some images of the Thunderbird.
Hey, sorry, I was passed out in a nap. I was gonna need to go to the store, but Jaden is asleep, so I'm gonna stay until they wake. Though I may fall back asleep myself. Had a shit night, lol. Oh, maybe it's Big Bird. Thunderbird, Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl, yes, oh, cool. So great, glad you're here, Shark. Glad you're here. I can pop your emote without it yelling at me. Words now.
Hi, Monty. Hey, Gumbo.
So yeah, sightings of the Thunderbird do kind of resemble a pterodactyl,
SHRK.
but we also see a lot of them that look like giant, like phoenix-like birds. Wait, where's that? Wasn't there a... So there was a picture made years ago, back when people were good at Photoshop.
Zapdos.
Yes, Zapdos. Yeah, who's to say they're not hunting down Pokemon out there?
No, that's lighter.
So there was an image. I haven't seen it in a long, long time. Like, I don't know why it's not coming up. Something like this. So this is a fake.
They know you're looking.
Yes, they do know I'm looking. I swear, like, I've probably got the book somewhere. So I've got a book of, like, paranormal caught on film. Back in the day when reading books was fun, right? In one of the images in this book, it's similar to this, but instead of them holding it up, they have it down on the ground, and it looks a little bit more worse for wear. This is obviously AI, but this was... Geez, what was the name of that book? I really couldn't. I'll find it one of these days. But the image had, like... It was obviously a pterodactyl. But it was laying on the ground in front of the men, and they were, like, posted up like they shot it. How do you spell pterodactyl? P-T... Fake pregnancy test? What? P-T. Pterodactyl. Oh, is this it? Oh, no, that's different.
Pterodactyl.
Like, it's driving me crazy. This isn't quite right. This one's a little different, too. This is closer. Not quite the same. It does say verified genuine image of modern pterosaur. Declaration by Clifford Paiva, missile defense physicist, and Jonathan David Whitcomb, cryptozoology author. This is similar but not the same. Still a little different. One of these days I'll find the book. I've got it here somewhere. But this feels more believable to me than the other picture does, because at least this has signs of wear and tear, whereas the other one looks like it's straight out of Sora. But yeah, it's when we talk about Thunderbird, this is the predominant description of the Thunderbird, is it looks like a pterodactyl, or it looks like Zapdos, or it looks like a phoenix. But the Thunderbird did bring lightning and thunder, historically speaking. Let me talk about it. All right, so over the following weeks, residences of Easton and Taunton reported seeing the same creature gliding silently over fields. Some described it as an enormous vulture, others as something closer to a pterodactyl. Skeptics suggest a large heron or eagle, but the consistency of reports and the credibility of witnesses kept the mystery alive. Coleman cataloged over a dozen Thunderbird sightings between 1971 and 1980 in the same region. In Mysterious America, he wrote, "What we have is not isolated delusion, but repeated encounters by credible observers." Thunderbird. Thunderbird. Swamp Bigfoot. Alright, on to the next one. Black dogs and phantom cats. The Bridgewater Triangle's animal legends aren't limited to ape-like creatures and birds. There's another motif, black dogs and phantom cats that appear suddenly and vanish. In 1976, a Ranham teenager named Patty McNeil claimed to have seen a pack of large black dogs stalking near the edge of her property. She said they were silent and moved in unison. When her father went outside with a flashlight, the animals were gone, leaving no tracks. Local newspapers later ran short blurbs about phantom dog sightings on Route 44, with motorists claiming a black shape darted across the road to disappear before impact. And in the Freetown State Forest, several hikers in the 1990s reported seeing large tan cats resembling mountain lions through Massachusetts, although Massachusetts officially has no native cougar population. I don't know, cougars. One police report from 1993 filed by Officer Ronald Pine described a large feline shadowing the patrol car at roughly 25 miles per hour before vanishing into the brush. Wildlife officials...
Oh yeah, we had reports of large cats in the 90s in Australia too.
Yeah, it seems strange, right? Like, the only thing that would make the big cats move around is environmental changes. But it seems like during the 90s, they were everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Like, you couldn't put enough pins in the map. They were everywhere. Wildlife officials dismissed these as escaped exotic pets or misidentified bobcats, but no carcasses or tracks were ever confirmed. You know,
I really wanted to see one.
Yeah, me too. Because there were reports in my area where I lived back in Arkansas about big cats. Like, I've seen pictures of it. Black ones. They're always black, right? Like panthers. But, you know, as much as I spent out in the middle of nowhere, I never saw one, and I hated the fact that I never got to see one. But, you know, we do have this. The great potato. The great potato. The great potato.
Turtles, precious. What's turtles, huh?
Potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
I miss my potato. I do.
Oh yeah, I called my cat Potato as well.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Beck Zero Frog Nuts.
F-Seer, everybody.
It's a ginger idiot though.
My potato, we lost her a year ago. But
Boom. H-E-P-H. Gross.
we put potato.
Thumbs down.
We put potato in the garden next to the roses, and this year we had massive roses, unlike we've ever seen before. Massive roses, and I think that was her way of,
Wow.
doing her thing. She's still here. She's here. This is her. I keep her with me, and I've got a bunch of her stuff over here. I got her old collar on my keychain. So, a funny story. You want to hear this funny story about my old cat? I'll tell you the story. It freaks me out when I think about it sometimes. Because it's wild. It really is wild. So when I adopted her, they're like, what are you looking for? I said, well, I want a cat. I said, but I'm kind of a weird person. I was like, I need a cat that kind of matches my vibe, right? And they're like, well, what kind of cat are you looking for? And I said, like, just one that kind of doesn't fit in with everybody else. And so they were like, well, go into this room over here and just sit down with the cats and see what you find. And I was like, cool. So I go into this room, and all the other cats are just running around playing, but Potato, she was sitting up on a shelf away from the other ones, and she like reached out to me and like tried to grab at me, but she had no claws. And I was vibing with her. It was really great. And so I come out and I asked the ladies there, and I said, well, which cat has been here the longest? And they said, well,
Heffies. Potter 2. C. Yeah, pets choose us.
yeah, so get this. I say to them, well, which one's been here the longest, right? And they say, well, that one up there in the corner by herself, she doesn't like anybody. I was like, well, she just loved on me like it was nothing. I was like, well, that's it. That's the one. That's the one. So I brought her home. Her eyes were bright emerald green, and her original name was Emerald. Let me see. I don't have a lot of pictures of her. They still kind of make me sad, but let me see if I've got a picture of her eyes. She had some eyes on her. Oh my gosh, she had some eyes on her. You gotta scroll down a little bit. Here we go. This was my Potato. Her name was Emerald because she had these emerald green eyes. And I changed her name to Potato, of course. And she loved me. She loved me more than any cat has ever loved me before. I get the impression she wasn't taken very good care of. I mean, she was my queen. She was my princess. When she started to go, we kind of knew it was time. She was very old. She got very sick. And instead of optioning to have her put down, I optioned for her to stay home, and I kept her as comfortable as I could until it was done. And the morning she passed, wrapped her up, and I took her outside and I started digging a hole. And I'm not making this up. I've never told this to anybody. I haven't even told my wife because she wasn't there when I did this. But I dug the hole, and this was in the ground where I dug the hole. You ready for this shit? A cat but wait, it gets better. It gets better. Let me shine this light over here. The cat's got green jewels for eyes. Like what? Freaking what? So then, it gets crazier. It gets crazier still. Let me see if I've got the picture of it still. Hold on. So then my little brother in Arkansas sends me a package. And he was like, hey, I found this for you and I thought you might like it. I was like, sure, what is it? So I opened up the package and it had a little cat statue in it. This is the one I found. This is the one he sent me. Exactly the same, just with different colored eyes. Exactly the same. I'm not making it up. How does this happen? How? I don't know. I really don't know. Just wild. Absolutely wild to me that something like that. Serendipity? Anybody? I don't know. But it's wild. But yeah, that's the potato. She's my potato. I miss her dearly. Oh, but if I see you here, I'm glad you're here, everybody. I do need to peel away for 2 seconds. I gotta use the restroom, and Monamu, don't go anywhere because I'm gonna bring that camera back. And I want to show you, and I want to get excited about it because I don't get excited about cameras with anybody because I'm a total nerd. But I'm gonna use the restroom, and I'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Hold, please. Your call is important to us. back. I had cameras. And ibuprofen, because I have a headache. I realized one of my cameras got a little moldy. Eek. Gross. It's my oldest camera. It's from 1918. It's only made out of wood and leather, so mold is a naturally kind of an occurring thing with cameras. The reason why people don't use old cameras is because they get mold on the inside. It only takes a couple good humid days in a row to get moisture inside, so inevitably it happens. But the good news is it can clean up. Let me wipe this thing off before I show it. Yeah. It mix of mold and dust. I don't dust these as often as I should. I don't spend a lot of time in my living room, admittedly. So here's my Argus. My Argus Super 75. Love this camera. So, cool thing about this one, and I didn't know it when I bought it, I was like, it's just a cool camera. I want it. So this one has a flip top, and you're meant to look down. Oh wait, hold on. My lights aren't on upstairs. Wondering why it seemed a little dark in here. So now you can see what I mean by when I say you look down. If I was to flip up the top, you're supposed to hold this at waist level and look down at it. So you look through the top, you can see my red clouds above my desk. Whoa. It's a cool little camera, really cool little camera. It takes 110 film. You could still get film for these, and they take incredible pictures. Incredible pictures. But this is my oldest one. This is a Kodak Brownie #1, the first film camera that Kodak made, and it is just a wooden box covered in leather. It is as straightforward and boring as you can get when it comes to a camera. Slide for opening and closing the shutter, and that's it. Wood and leather. No bells, no whistles. It's got a viewfinder, but it's so filled with mold that you can't see inside it. Cool little camera though. It's one of my favorites. I love this guy. One day I'll get film for it. Years ago, I got film for the Argus, and oh shit, I got film in it right now. I didn't know I'd film in this. I can't see it. What number frame is it on? Oh, okay. So we're in picture number 6 of, I think it's a roll of 10. Oh goodness. Yeah, I would love to take a picture in here, but I know it's just not gonna come out because it's so dark. But I will develop this film one day, and when I do, I will show it on the podcast. Yeah, really cool camera. If you ever get a chance to pick up an Argus, you can get film made, and it's cheap. It's like $20 a roll, and it costs just as much to develop it. Cool little camera. I love it. I could do a whole podcast talking about cameras. I really could. Hef, what are you doing? I saw you come in. Hefs, where are you? You lint liquor?
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
All right, jerks. Well, we got to tie into this. We're on page 9 of 33 for the script. Usually by this point we're halfway through. Oh, jeez. New beer. Get my new beer. Let's run through it. We're gonna run through the rest of Act 2 and tie into 3. Let's go. Let's talk about the Phantom Hitchhiker, Route 44. So not all creatures are described as living, and on Route 44 near Rehoboth, one of the most enduring legends is the Phantom Hitchhiker. Dozens of drivers have claimed to have seen a man with long red hair and a plaid shirt standing by the roadside, thumb extended. Those who stopped said that the man vanished when they looked away. Others who didn't stop later reported seeing him suddenly appear in their backseat mirror before disappearing again.
Not a ginger.
Those freaking gingers. Jeez.
Aliens.
Wait, we got something good? I guess the best thing I got for a ginger is this.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
A 1999 Taunton Daily Gazette article titled "The Man Who Isn't There" compiled police logs over 20 similar calls dating back to the 1960s. While not a cryptid in the biological sense, the Phantom Hitchhiker fits the triangle's pattern of overlapping folklore. Half ghost story, half modern myth tied to the same stretch of road that borders the swamp. Researchers have proposed several natural explanations for the creature sightings. For the Bigfoot reports, some point to escaped zoo animals or black bears misidentified in low light. And for the Thunderbird sightings, ornithologists suggest sandhill cranes, which can reach wingspans of 7 feet and are rare but not impossible in New England. The black dogs might have roots in European folklore brought by colonialists, the hellhound archetype, which then merged with local superstition, and the phantom cats might be psychological projections spurred by isolation and fear in the dense woods. But those explanations only go so far. When separate phenomena cluster geographically and temporally, it challenges coincidence. The Freetown State Forest has long been considered one of the Triangle's most active zones for creature sightings. Rangers and visitors alike describe strange noises echoing through the woods, howls, metallic knocks, and sometimes voices. One ranger, interviewed anonymously for the Bridgewater Triangle documentary in 2013 stated,
"You can stand in the forest and hear something large moving parallel to you. You shine a light, and there's nothing. It's like it knows where you're looking."
Photographers have reported catching red or orange eye shine in the dark at heights suggesting something tall, but when approached, the glow vanishes. There's also the so-called ledge beast of Assonet Ledge, an abandoned granite quarry within the forest. Visitors report a black humanoid shape that paces along the cliff edge before leaping into the void and disappearing. Some say it's a ghost, and others think it's connected to the Hockomock creature. One of the most interesting features of Bridgewater's cryptid reports is consistency. Separate witnesses across decades often describe similar physical traits. Height between 6 and 8 feet, covered in dark or reddish-brown hair, bright eyes that seem to reflect, and a strong odor of decay or swamp water. That level of patterning is unusual for folklore. Either everyone's telling variations of the same story, or they're seeing the same thing. Coleman once commented, "Folklore repeats, but details evolve. When details stay the same for 50 years, it suggests witnesses are drawing from observation, not imagination." Biologists have offered another idea. The swamp could hide unknown species due to its impenetrable terrain. Much of Hockomock remains unmapped, with deep channels and floating vegetation mats that make navigation nearly impossible. In 1999, a University of Massachusetts field study noted sections of Hockomock Swamp remain effectively uncharted due to hazardous conditions and the lack of navigable paths. Cryptozoologist Mark Collin, who studied the swamp in the early 2000s, told the Boston Herald, "If there were an undiscovered primate species in New England, this is exactly where it would be. Nobody goes deep enough into the swamp to know what's in there." To this day, hikers in the swamp occasionally post blurry cell phone photos or videos claiming to show something moving between the trees. Most turn out inconclusive, shadows, misidentified deer, or pareidolia, but the myths persist. Even skeptics who visit the swamp agree on one point: it feels wrong. There's an oppressive stillness, a sense of being observed. DeAndre once said, "You don't have to see it to know it's there. You just have to stand still long enough." And as the Bridgewater Triangle legend grew, these creatures' stories became its foundation. But as strange as they are, that's only part of it. Because where the wilderness ends, the human element begins, and with it, something far darker. And that's the end of Act 2, everybody. Act 2. Wait, we have an applause sound effect. Yeah. So in Act 3, we're going to talk more about the forest. Let me graze over it just real quick. We've got the human aspect of what happens in the Bridgewater Triangle. So when I say human aspect, we're not dealing with cryptids, ghosts, UFOs, whatever. We are focusing a little more on the ritualistic aspect and the satanic panic part of what happens in the Bridgewater Triangle. So let's get on to Act 3. Act 3. The Freetown State Forest covers nearly 5,000 acres of rugged terrain. Dense pines, granite outcroppings, and isolated trails. It's beautiful in daylight, but when the sun goes down, it becomes something else. Rangers have described finding makeshift altars, candles, animal bones, and symbols carved into trees. Some are remnants of bored teenagers or amateur occultists. Others are harder to explain. The forest notoriety dates back to the 1970s, where locals began reporting ritualistic gatherings in the woods. Some involved fire circles and chanting, where others left behind mutilated animals, goats, dogs, and deer, laid out in geometric patterns. While no definitive group was ever identified, the pattern of activity suggests organized ritual behavior. And in 1978, police discovered 2 men brutally murdered near the forest. Their deaths were initially attributed to robbery or drug-related violence, but the condition of the bodies suggested something else. According to archived reports in the Fall River Herald News, the victims were found partially dismembered, surrounded by traces of candle wax and crude wooden symbols. Although never conclusively linked to satanic or cult activity, investigators noted similarities between the crime scene and later ritual cases that would plague the region in the upcoming years. That same year, reports of animal sacrifices surged. Dogs and livestock were found drained of blood near the forest edge or tied to trees. Residents began calling it the Freetown Curse. The most infamous series of crimes tied to the Bridgewater Triangle came to light in 1979 and 1980. The Fall River Cult Murders. Though technically centered in nearby Fall River, the group operated on the outskirts of Freetown State Forest, and the killings were directly tied to the same pattern of ritual activity seen there. The case began when the body of a young woman was found beneath the bleachers in Endymion Vocational High School in October of 1979. She had been tied... I'm going to skip this word because some platforms don't like us using that word. And murdered. Evidence at the scene suggested ritualistic elements. 2 more women, Barbara Raposa and Karen Marsden, vanished over the following months. The disappearances led investigators into a world of drug use, prostitution, and self-styled satanic ritualism. Police eventually arrested Carl Dew, a pimp and small-time criminal who claimed to be a Satanist and referred to himself as the Son of Satan. Drew, along with Robin Murphy, Karen Marsden, and others, held rituals deep in the Freetown woods involving animal sacrifice and blood oaths. When Marsden tried to leave the group, Drew allegedly ordered her killed. Her body was later found decapitated, head missing. Murphy, who testified against Drew in exchange for a reduced sentence, described in detail the night of the murder. We were in the woods. Carl said Satan needed the soul. They cut her throat, and Carl carried her head like a trophy. End quote. Carl Drew was convicted of first-degree murder in 1981 and sentenced to life in prison. Murphy served 20 years. The case became national news, a focal point of the so-called satanic panic of the 1980s. But unlike many exaggerated cases that era, the Fall River murders were real, brutal, and directly tied to the Bridgewater Triangle's geography. To this day, some locals refuse to go near those areas at night. After the Fall River case, Freetown's reputation changed forever. The idea of the Triangle as a place of darkness wasn't just a legend anymore. It was backed by police reports, autopsies, and convictions. In the decades since, the forest has remained a magnet for violence or inexplicable crime. Not because of cults, but because of something deeper. Isolation. In the 1980s, police recovered the bodies of a teenage girl in the forest, identified as Mary Lou Arruda, a 15-year-old abducted from her hometown in Ranham. She was found bound to a tree, her remains badly decomposed. Her killer, James Cater, a local man with a violent history, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison after multiple trials and appeals. The crime shook the region. For locals already uneasy about the forest, it felt like confirmation that something malignant lingered there. Cater maintained his innocence until his death in 2015, but the brutality of the crime and its setting only deepened the area's infamy. Freetown became a place teenagers dared each other to enter, and adults quietly avoided. But by the early 2000s, local police began reopening some cold cases connected to the area. Reports of missing persons, unidentified remains, and ritual vandalism kept resurfacing. And in 2001, investigators discovered a makeshift altar made of stones near the Assinet Ledge. Around it were animal bones, a small doll, a black candle wax. Police ruled it vandalism, but noted organized placement and suggesting intent. That same year, hikers found a noose hanging from a tree over one of the forest's more remote ponds. No body was found, but the third such discovery in less than 2 years. A retired Fall River detective told the Herald News in 2003, "You can go years without hearing anything, and then suddenly there's a cluster. Suicides, assaults, missing persons, all in that same patch of woods. It's become a kind of pattern within a pattern, the human reflection of the Triangle's other mysteries." And visitors who've dared to enter the forest after dark often describe the same sensations. The air feels thicker, the sound seems to die. Flashlights malfunction, compass needles drift. Some describe hearing drums in the distance, or whispering that fades when approached. Others report seeing figures in the trees, human shapes watching silently and vanishing when the light hits them. Whether those experiences are psychological or paranormal, or simply the product of nerves, they've all been recorded. And in the 2013 documentary, one ranger stated, "I don't talk about it much. There are parts of that forest that feel off. I've seen lights moving where there shouldn't be any lights, and I've heard voices when I was alone." End quote. Even hardened investigators describe the same quiet fear. Not panic, but the sense that the forest is aware. In 1987, a man named Ronald Mansfeld disappeared while hiking. His car was found parked near the forest entrance. Despite search efforts, his body wasn't discovered until a year later. Cause of death was undetermined. In 1998, local teens stumbled upon a dismembered deer, arranged in a circle with symbols drawn in white chalk. Police documented it as possible ritual activity. In 2014, which not that long ago, hunters found a burnt tent and personal belongings, but no owner was ever identified. Nearby trees bore carved pentagrams. None of these incidents led to arrest, but each one reinforces the area's reputation, a place where strange things happen, and that no one can really quite explain why. So when you look at the timeline, something stands out. 1970s, creature sightings, early cult rumors. 78 to 1980, Fall River murders. 1980s to the 90s, violent crimes, suicides, missing persons. In 2000s to present day, recurring reports of ritual sites and unexplained deaths. The intervals between them vary, but the location doesn't. Again and again, the pattern circles back to the same core. Freetown State Forest, sitting squarely inside the Bridgewater Triangle. But the repetition over decades keeps the myth alive. It's not just the crimes, it's the feeling that the forest magnifies whatever you bring into it. Fear, anger, or despair. For those who work around the area, police, rangers, search and rescue teams, the triangle has a psychological weight. Sergeant John Powers, a Freetown officer who spent 15 years patrolling the forest, told the Enterprise, "You start to get a gut feeling about certain spots. Some places you just don't linger. Not because you're superstitious, but because you've seen what can happen there." End quote. There's no evidence that the forest causes violence, but there's an undeniable association between this land and the acts of human cruelty. Whether that's coincidence, environment, or something unseen, no one can say for sure. But still, there are things in this region that go beyond human explanation. Places where history and haunting collide. And in the next act, we'll move from forest to Freetown to the sites of haunting across the triangle. The Taunton State Hospital, the Hockomock Rock, the Profile Rock, where the past doesn't stay buried and the echoes of what happened centuries ago still carry on the wind. Wow. Deep. There's so much happening in this one little spot. 200 square miles. 200 square miles. Can you believe it? So when I first started researching this, I heard Bridgewater Triangle, and I thought, well, maybe we're just dealing with like some weird UFO sightings. And that was it. Or like sounds in the forests. But there is something going on here. It comes to a point where there's so much being reported. At what point does it stop being folklore and superstition? What point do we take it seriously? Right? There's a lot going on here. So let's talk about the hauntings, which brings us into Act 4. Act 4, everybody, Act 4, the hauntings. If there's one place that captures the triangle's atmosphere of dread, it's Taunton State Hospital. Built in 1854, the hospital began as a statewide reform movement for the mental health institutions in Massachusetts. It was designed by architect Eldridge Boyden, following the Kirkbride Plan, a 19th century philosophy that combined moral treatment with grand sprawling architecture. The building stretched nearly 700 feet with long wings extending outward from a central administration building. From the outside, it looked like a cathedral. Inside, it was another story. Do we want to see a picture of this? I want to see a picture of it. Let's find one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this place is just asking for problems. Ugh. It's a very unique building. What a strange... The walkway between the two buildings is kind of strange, right? Like this, right here? Whoa. You don't just see a lot of that. Not at all. It's a little weird. Yeah, like this is a setting of, geez, every horror movie I've ever seen. Kind of in a nutshell, for sure. Early records describe overcrowding, abuse, and experimental treatments. Patients were subjected to hydrotherapy, insulin shock, and later electroconvulsive therapy. By the mid-1900s, the institution had earned a reputation as one of the darkest places in New England. Former staff and visitors described an overwhelming sense of unease in the main building's tunnels. Many say they hear footsteps following them, doors slamming, and whispers in rooms that haven't been occupied for decades. One nurse interviewed anonymously in a 2000 book, Haunted Massachusetts, said,
"The basement's the worst. You walk alone and hear carts rolling behind you. You turn and nothing was there. And you get used to the feeling that someone's right next to you."
Even before its closure, local police had to respond to trespassers and thrill seekers exploring the abandoned wings. Some of them claimed to see apparitions in white gowns or white faces in the windows. The site's history reinforces those fears. During its peak in the 1930s, more than 1,200 patients were confined there, many forgotten by families, buried in unmarked graves on the property. In 2009, after decades of decay, the original Taunton State Hospital was mostly demolished, but its legend persists. Paranormal groups who've investigated the site say their equipment malfunctioned more often than anywhere else in the Triangle. EVP sessions routinely record faint voices saying the words like help or leave. Whether it's energy from trauma or just coincidence, even skeptics who visit admit the place feels heavy. Anawan Rock, 15 miles south off Route 44 in Rehoboth, stands Anawan Rock, one of the Triangle's oldest and most storied landmarks. It's a massive granite boulder jutting out of the ground and surrounded by forest, but it's not just a rock. It's the final chapter of King Philip's War. In 1676, the Wampanoag war leader Anawan, one of Metacom's last surviving captains, was captured there by colonial troops under the Captain Benjamin Church. After surrendering, Anawan and his men were executed. Some accounts say Church promised their safety before ordering their deaths. The site became a place of mourning and resentment by the Wampanoag, a symbol of betrayal and loss. Generations later, the legacy turned into legend. One 1971 Taunton Gazette article quoted a local resident, Margaret Dunn, saying,
"It was after dark. The air was still. Then we heard drums, not like from a radio, but distant, low. They faded in and out. We stayed maybe 5 minutes before we left. It just didn't feel right."
Visitors who also claimed to hear voices speaking Algonquian dialects. Though most can't understand the words, Lauren Coleman wrote that Anawan Rock may be the most important single point in the Triangle, a literal site of surrender where history turned into haunting. Today, it's preserved by a historical landmark. There's a small parking area and a plaque explaining the battle. But even in daylight, people describe a sense of pressure, like the air itself is charged. And about 10 miles west and near the town of Assinet stands another stone monument, Profile Rock. The site once was a place of prayer and ceremony, but by the 20th century, it became a hotspot for strange activity. Glowing orbs, phantom fires, and apparitions. Hikers have reported seeing a figure kneeling on the rock, arms raised as if in a ritual. Others hear singing or crying echoing from the trees below. In 1983, a Bridgewater man told the Enterprise,
"We saw a blue light move across the ledge, stop for a second, and shoot straight up into the air. There's no tower or power line out there. It just vanished."
Police have also been called to the site for vandalism, illegal fires, or trespassing, often finding candles and chalk markings. Like in Freetown, the area around Profile Rock attracts both curious and the disturbed. The rock partially collapsed, destroying much of the face. The Department of Conservation closed it permanently to the public. Still, its reputation lives as one of the Triangle's most active sites. So that's why when we pulled it up on Google Maps earlier, we were not able to see the face exactly because the rock has collapsed. So we do have a few more. There's a few more instances of hauntings here, but we're gonna have to skip ahead because we're hitting the end of our 2-hour mark here. But we're gonna come to Act 5, where we talk about the modern aspect of the Bridgewater Triangle, what we're seeing today. All right. This is Act 5, everyone. Act 5. The modern UFO era in the southeastern Massachusetts began in 1976, the same decade the swamp creature and Thunderbird sightings peaked. That year, multiple reports came from across Bridgewater, Rinham, and Taunton of, quote, a large, bright object, flying low and silent. Witness described them as triangular, with 3 white lights and one red one at the center. On March 23rd of 1979, police officers in Bridgewater received calls from several residences about a luminous craft hovering over Route 24. One officer, Sergeant James O'Neill, told the Enterprise,
"We saw something stationary, about 200 feet up. It was triangular, silent, no sound of rotors or engines, and it shot off at incredible speed toward Freetown."
2 nights later, a Taunton couple claimed the same object returned, hovering over their house for nearly 2 minutes before streaking upwards into the clouds. These sightings occurred nearly 2 decades before the Phoenix Lights or the rise of the Black Triangle UFO reports across the country, marking them as some of the earliest of their kind. And in 1980, the Bridgewater police logged 3 separate UFO reports within 1 week. The first came from a civilian pilot flying out of Taunton Municipal Airport. Metal discs with red lights along its edge, hovering at approximately 2,000 feet, the radar detecting nothing. The second was from an off-duty officer driving near Lake Nipponicket, the same lake adjacent to Hockomock Swamp. He described a silent craft about 50 feet across, bright as magnesium, that followed the car for several seconds before vanishing. The third came from a group of teenagers camping near the swamp. They filmed a moving light that changed direction abruptly. The footage was inconclusive but consistent with other reports. One of the enduring theories about the Bridgewater Triangle is that it acts as a geophysical anomaly zone, a place where magnetic, seismic, and even electrical conditions influence perception or possibly attract aerial phenomena. This idea stems from studies conducted in the 1980s by Paul Eno and Robert Ellis, who measured electromagnetic field spikes near Hockomock Swamp. They found irregular readings, not consistent, but sharp bursts that appeared in specific locations, sometimes coinciding with witness activity. Eno theorized that such conditions could create ionized fields, visible as glowing orbs or balls of light. Others speculated that the area might function as a window area, a term coined by John Keel, the author of the Mothman Prophecies. referring to a geographic points where reality appears to thin and multiple types of phenomena overlap. Skeptics point to the region's proximity to military installations. Otis Air National Guard Base lies roughly 30 miles east on Cape Cod. Hanscom Air Force Base, a key research facility, sits 50 miles northwest. It's plausible, they argue, that the residences were witnessing test flights of experimental craft. However, declassified records show no scheduled activity corresponding with many of the key sightings, and additionally, most reports describe these crafts as silent, inconsistent with conventional jet engines. A few places in the Triangle have generated as many UFO reports as Lake Nippenicket, nicknamed the Nip. The Nip. We love it when they slip in the nip. Gives us an old nip slip. Surrounded by dense forest and swamp on three sides, the lake serves as a natural mirror. At night, it reflects everything: stars, headlights, aircraft. And that's the part of what makes the reports so hard to verify. But yet the stories persist. Kayakers, night fishermen, joggers have described pulsing blue orbs that skim the surface, split in two, and merge again. In one 1994 incident, a group of students from Bridgewater State University claimed to see a dome-shaped craft rise silently from the lake's surface, hover, and then disappear into the tree line. No official explanation was found. Though rarer than the lights in the sky, a few abduction-type encounters have surfaced from within the Triangle. In 1992, a woman from Ranham named Linda Curtis reported waking in her car after pulling over near the swamp to rest. She claimed 2 hours had passed without memory. Her car battery was dead, and she had found a small circular mark on her arm. Police logs confirmed the call, but filed it as possible medical episode. Curtis later underwent hypnotic regression with a local therapist and described figures with long faces and a humming sound. The story gained local attention but never went widespread with coverage. So folklorists see something else at work here. They know that the Triangle overlaps ancient Wampanoag lands filled with sacred spaces and burial sites. The Wampanoag believed in spirit guardians, or who protected certain locations in the Manitou, spiritual energy present in nature. To them, glowing lights, phantom fires, the strange sounds weren't anomalies, they were signs of the Manitou. From that view, the Triangle isn't cursed, it's alive with memory. It reflects the emotions, traumas, and beliefs of those who cross it. The phenomena changed with the people, from spirit fires to UFOs, but the core remains the same. Today, the Bridgewater Triangle continues to draw investigators. Paranormal teams conduct night vigils at Hockomock Swamp. UFO researchers track light anomalies with night vision cameras. Podcasts, documentaries, and local historians keep the legend in circulation. That's right. In 2013, the Bridgewater Triangle documentary broke the story to national audiences. Compelling testimonies from law enforcement, journalists, lifelong residents. After its release, new witnesses came forward, many of them police officers and firefighters who had never spoken publicly before. One Taunton firefighter described seeing a diamond-shaped craft hovering over Route 140 in 1998. Quote,
"It was completely silent, maybe 50 feet across. We shut the truck off to listen, and there wasn't a single sound."
Another witness, a state trooper, recalled seeing 3 white lights in a fixed formation hovering over the swamp in 2005. He said,
"I've flown helicopters for 20 years. That wasn't any aircraft I know."
But none of these reports were officially explained. Over time, the Bridgewater Triangle has become both a local identity and a cultural phenomenon. There are town festivals, ghost tours, independent researchers who've dedicated decades to mapping its reports. But unlike tourist legends that fade with time, this one continues to evolve, merging folklore, psychology, and science into a living mystery. So we've come to possible explanations. There are 4 main schools of thought about what drives the triangle's phenomena. 1. Geophysical theory. The land itself, through magnetic anomalies, quartz deposit, and swamp gases, produces measurable effects that alter perception or create visible light phenomena. 2. Psychological theory. The legend shapes how people interpret natural events. Expectations lead to interpretation, and interpretation becomes experience. 3. Historical theory. The area's violent past, from King Philip's War to modern crimes, has created a deep cultural imprint, producing legends as a way of processing trauma. And 4. Paranormal theory. The most controversial, that the Bridgewater Triangle is a genuine window area, a liminal zone where different realities intersect. Each explanation fits part of the puzzle, but none of it explains it all. Nearly 50 years after Lauren Coleman coined the term, the Bridgewater Triangle has become a permanent entry into American folklore. It bridges science, history, and myth, a reminder that mystery exists in a mapped world. For researchers, it's a case study in mass belief and the power of place. For locals, it's part of who they are. And for those who've experienced it firsthand, it's something else entirely. Proof, maybe, that the world is stranger than we'd like to admit. Which brings us to the end, folks. What do we think about the Bridgewater Triangle? I see we have 5 people in chat. I'd like to hear every single one of your... I'd like to hear all of what you guys have to say about what you think about the Bridgewater Triangle. Is it paranormal? Is it not? Is it residual? Is it... Geez, there's so many things it could be at this point. I see we have 5 people. I want to hear everybody's idea of what they think's going on at the Bridgewater Triangle. It's a weird one. Faux show.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
Not to mention the ginger hitchhiker. Hitchhiker. So first and foremost, I'd like to apologize for my ripping through the last 3 acts of that. Went a little faster than I wanted to, but, when chat's running, I'm going to interact. We've got a lot to process here. We really do. So when you look at the bones of it, only until recently have we seen anybody really making money off of this, right? There's ghost tours, there's like mystery hikes. There's so many things that people are making money off of today that weren't there, back when the story started. And when you look at the picture, the grand picture of all of this, when you try to discern what is real and what is paranormal, what is fake, what is folklore, it's really, really hard to say. All right? We've got a lot going on here. Admittedly, we really do. And how much activity has to be seen in an area in order for somebody to call it a triangle. So, like the Bermuda Triangle. How many thousands of ships have encountered something in the Bermuda Triangle before we called it the Bermuda Triangle? Same thing here. How many paranormal cases have we seen inside the Bridgewater Triangle before we called it the Bridgewater Triangle? I mean, this goes back to the 1600s. There's a deep foundation here, lots of roots. So we know when you build stuff on top of Native American burial grounds, there's going to be issues. All right, so we know that this area is, traditionally speaking, Native American. Anything we build in this area, it's going to be bad. It's bad news. Alright, I snoozed the ad for 5 more minutes till I can finish my rant. We talked at the beginning of this episode, back in Act 1, how this area was considered sacred by the Native Americans that lived here. They were the first. They were the ones that came up with the original, I don't want to use the word folklore here, but folklore. Alright, so we've got the concept of a spiritual ground. We've got sightings of mysterious fog, whispers, lights, phantom fires, and then we also deal with things like the Thunderbird. But the Native Americans at the time, back in the 1600s, thought that this was normal. Alright? That's why this area was considered spiritual. So why today does it continue? That's a great question. I do not know. I really do not know. I guess if I was to say whether or not the Bridgewater Triangle was really paranormal or not, I would say yes. Yes, that the Bridgewater Triangle is really paranormal. But hear me out. There's something here that we don't understand. Alright? I cannot tell you what it is. I don't know what it is. But there is high strangeness happening here. We've got UFO sightings. We've got spectral sightings, hauntings. We've got cryptid sightings. We've got lights. We've got phantom fires. We've got voices. Symbols carved into a tree, ritualistic happenings, murders, suicides. We covered everything in this one 200 square mile space. Why? I do not know. But what I do know is that to this day it's still happening. And this goes back to the 1600s. The 1600s, people. There is nothing in evidence to say that this is being faked. There is nothing in evidence to prove that this is a naturally occurring phenomena of lights. There is nothing to say that anything in this research, through personal experience, can be explained. So I think that we can say at the end of this case, the Bridgewater Triangle is truly paranormal. I would love to go and visit this place. I just want to go in the woods and just set up a recorder and leave it. Because I know we'd get something. I know it. What's up, Jim? I see you there. How you doing, buddy? The Bridgewater Triangle probably is one of the most paranormal places in the contiguous United States, and it's confined within a 200-mile square space. I think, like some of the others here, that we are dealing with an area, an overlap, where our world and parallel worlds, it's just thin. And as a result, we're seeing things we're not supposed to see. You know, for all we know, this is what's happening in the Bermuda Triangle. I couldn't tell you. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. So I think tonight, at the end of our investigation, I do believe that the Bridgewater Triangle is truly paranormal. I can't tell you why. But there is such a high concentration that it's hard to overlook. It really is. It really is. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that's it. The Bridgewater Triangle is just really paranormal. And it's a force of energy that we cannot understand today, but maybe one day we will. Simple as that. Some things you're never going to understand, but it's there. There's physical evidence. There's reports of evidence. And there's such a high concentration of it that I feel like we're dealing with something really paranormal. So yes, I'm going to say that the Bridgewater Triangle is truly, truly paranormal. One of the few remaining places in the world that's truly paranormal. Simple as that.
Sounds like it.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Manamu. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. All right, jerks. Let's get ready to wrap this thing up. We don't have so we're gonna mark Bridgewater Triangle off the list. Does anybody have a recommendation for next week? The only thing I have on the dry erase board is the Dancing Plague, unless somebody has something else they want to recommend. I think we're due for some. I mean, this week was high strangeness, so I don't know. Let me look at YouTube. Let me see.
Dancing Plague sounds good.
Yeah, the Dancing Plague was interesting. However, I'm not sure we can fill 2 hours with the Dancing Plague. Okay, so we did Cadetskiona last week. Zombies, vampires, the lead mass deaths, cryptid, ghosts, UFOs, cryptid, UFOs. I think we're... So I'm going to start researching the Dancing Plague for next week. If I can't come up with something before... You know, if I start researching and the Dancing Plague doesn't have enough content to fill us for 2 hours, then I might move over to a UFO, something alien UFO abduction related. I'm not sure yet. I need to come up with something that's got lots of evidence. I like to be able to bring evidence, images, videos. I really love bringing videos forward. Yeah. If the Dancing Plague doesn't quite fill 2 hours, we'll do aliens next week, or extraterrestrials. Excuse me. Don't want to get ice knocking down my door because I used the A word. Teke. I'll write it down. I got a suggestion. I'll write it down. Shark, you're the best when it...
You need another suggestion?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll take it. Sharky, you got great suggestions. I'll take your suggestions. Ooh, okay. All right, I got both of those wrote down. We'll see what we come up with.
Llorona, if you haven't already.
La Llorona, yeah, we covered La Llorona back at season 1. So back in season 1 when we had Paul here, so Paul used to live in the area where the La Llorona case originated from, and we had first-hand accounts from somebody on the show about La Llorona. Where's it at? Wait, I've got a book here. Where's my book? Where's my freaking book? So Paul actually sent me like a children's book about La Llorona. So I've got a couple dudes at work that aren't necessarily American citizens, and I brought up La Llorona to them, and one of them was like, "Oh, no, we don't talk about La Llorona. No." Dude got upset. And the more I talked about it, like, dude was like, no. We don't talk about, no. We don't talk about it. So it's I think it was cool that we touched on something that had some social underlying stuff.
I understand.
But like, dude was like, his understanding of La Llorona was like he scooped up like drunk people walking home from the bars. But when we did our full investigation, we came up
much like skinwalkers and Wendigo.
Yeah, it's a regional thing. For sure. I really don't know where my book went. I thought I left it here when I redid the background, but it is what it is. But yeah, we'll see what we got next week. If we can't come up with something worthwhile, we'll see what we got next week. But I enjoyed this week. The Bridgewater Triangle has been on my radar for a long time. I say again, for those of you who don't know, there's a really good podcast out there. It's on Spotify. It's from iHeartRadio and Grim and Mild. They do spooky.
Also another suggestion. Shiryo Koso Det Ure.
Whoa, I don't know that one. Geez, you know all the good Japanese ones.
With an ad, but I wanted to let you know some.
You shouldn't have been hit with an ad. That's so stupid. I actually used one of my 3 snoozes for the ad, so you shouldn't have been hit with the ad. It's so dumb, and they're still running ads. Child rearing ghost. Oh, goodness. That looks spooky. Okay, I'm gonna leave that up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yuki Honor.
Did you keep giving me these suggestions? You know all the Japanese folklore, don't you? Jeez, you should start a Japanese folklore podcast. You know all of them. But I'd be glad to cover them. Yeah, so if we can't come up with something, we'll touch one of those next week for sure. Let me give a quick shout out. James Cappy.
Well, if you ever need suggestions.
Well, thank you. I'll take every single one I can get. I'll use it. I will use it. Maybe we'll do like a 2-parter of Japanese folklore, and and we'll just cover all of them. Why not?
There's a LOT.
Yes, there is. There's a big group of them. I know this. So, before we go, shout out to James Cappy. Thanks, guy. Appreciate your email.
We should still do the dancing plague.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it. I don't know if we've got enough to cover 2 hours worth, but we'll so those smaller ones that don't quite fill 2 hours, I like to hold on to them, and when we get closer to the holidays, I'll pre-record some stuff so that way we still have a weekly episode. My goal this year was to do 52 episodes this year for 52 weeks out of the year. So if we run into an issue with scheduling or the holidays...
Dancing plague in UHM, another one that's similar. I feel like I mentioned it. Laughing plague. I'm going blank now.
Mass hysteria. Yeah, the laughter epidemic in Tanzania. So yeah, maybe we'll do dancing plague and the laughing epidemic next week. Yeah. Yeah, that might work. We'll see what we come up with. If we can fill 2 hours with one or the other, we'll do it. But we do got a little tiny bit I got left to read. We do have an ad coming, too, by the way. Oh, I left the streamer ads manager open so I could watch it, but I was really not good about watching it tonight. I'm sorry, I was just into reading it. Let me see, before we get started, if we've got anybody to raid.
Ha ha cat, ha ha cat, ha ha cat, ha ha cat, ha ha cat. I was hit with it, ha ha ha. No worries though.
Oh, let me see what Jim's doing. Jim Russell. Tim looks like he's only got a few people watching. Let's raid Tim. Looks, judging by his filter, he might be struggling a little bit. So we're gonna raid him and see what he's got going on. But before we get too much into it, let me read the last little bit here. Thanks everybody for being in. If any of you listening feel like you've got a story or something you want to reach out, a personal experience, something that's happened to you, or you've got a story you want to suggest for a future podcast, reach out to us at beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. That's beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. I'm glad to get your emails. Thanks, James, for your email this week. I really appreciate it. You really did me a world of good. You lifted my spirits, and you put me where I needed to be right here when it came to the podcast. You gave me that fill that I needed. Thanks again, James, for your email. We're gonna get on out of here, and we're gonna raid. We're gonna raid my buddy Jim. Let me get this set up, and then we got a little tiny bit left to read. So in the end, the Bridgewater Triangle isn't a map, it's a mirror. Everything that's happened here, the lights, the legend, the crimes, reflects something deeper about the human need to explain the inexplainable. We draw triangles on maps to give shape to chaos. We name monsters so we can live beside them. But maybe the truth is simpler. Maybe this place just remembers. Every war, every ritual, every whisper in the swamp leaves a trace. So whether you believe in ghosts, cryptids, or something beyond both, remember the Bridgewater Triangle isn't waiting to convince you. It's waiting to be noticed. So if you find yourself knee-deep in a swamp in the middle of Massachusetts area in the Bridgewater Triangle, don't panic. Find your way back to the road. Find your way back to safety. Don't give up hope. Don't stray too far from the path. But whatever you do, make sure you follow us. Beyond the shadows. Good night, everybody.
Creature like that. How would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the shadows.